trans
I'm not
people
a
at
huge
the
fan
front.
of gay pride. Like I see them. They first of all they take up all the streets, so
Mm-hmm.
traffic gets fucked. And then the next thing is you see like these giant dick balloons, and they're walking through, and
I've never been to Pride before.
they're in booty shorts, and it's like man, kids are walking on the street, and they see like, mommy, what's? It's like a little fucking dick balloon. But if I take a piss behind a dumpster of a bar, that's public indecency. $100 fine. I could go to jail. Well, why do these people get to fly dick balloons down fucking Madison Avenue?
I mean, a dick is a dick. It's not
so-
a real dick. It's just a balloon.
So my real dick that's like away in a corner peeing behind a dumpster is
Well, I
public
don't believe.
indecency?
I don't believe you should get arrested for that shit neither. Like most people that get arrested for that is is very racialized. But
Yeah.
I think they stopped that. I think they actually made that they decriminalized that. I think you might just get a fine now or not at all.
You don't get a fine for flying a dick balloon though.
I mean, it's a balloon. You feel me?
Yeah, it's giant though.
I could put a pussy on my shirt right now and
You
walk
could,
around.
but like, do you want kids to see that?
I mean, that's up to parents to make sure that their kids not seeing that. I mean, what's so bad about seeing pussy and dick?
I mean, yeah, kids should be open.
They
to,
have
but
it.
there's like,
I feel
all
like
right,
if you
a little
educate
bit,
your kid
like-
and say this is now, if it's something with like, if there was like sex on my shirt or like it was a balloon of like somebody getting fucked in the ass, I was like, all right, you wildin'. Like,
Well,
that's
why would you want to
definitely-
wear a giant pussy on your shirt though?
I don't know. Different strokes, different folks, different strokes.
Very different strokes. Do you have a strict way you identify as? Or
Well,
do you just say non-binary that you don't?
Yeah, I'm non-binary. I'm agender. So that I don't really fit the mold of like a woman or man. Like so that like I have a very different experience when it comes to gender expression. Like, usually binary trans people, they're more so assimilating to something that already exists. Like this is what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah,
You see,
that's what
adhere to
always
that.
confused me because the LGBT community, they always say that gender is a construct, but it seems to me like most trans people they try to conform to the natural idea of two genders.
Right.
You know, when you become a man, they try to get more masculine,
Right.
they try to get buff, they start wearing tank tops.
Right.
You've seen like the lesbians in New York City that have with the cleanest lineups you've ever seen, like fresher than me. I'm on the subway, like what's her barber, bro?
I can't really speak too much on it in terms of like, because I've never experienced that, but I've definitely experienced gender dysphoria in a sense of like looking myself in the mirror and be like, it doesn't really match how I feel.
Have you always felt that way?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've always had dissociative issues since I was like a kid. I didn't even really know that was part of gender dysphoria until like a couple of years ago. Until I started realizing like the more feminine I looked, the more me I felt. But I definitely did not feel like a woman per se. Like I just felt like I just was who I was, just leaned more so on the expression of femininity. Like, and since I was younger, like people always felt that I was like more feminine. And it was funny because even like girlfriends I've had have said like someone might have like a gay vibe or someone has a gay aura, but no one has ever like felt like I was gay. They felt like I was like feminine.
Yeah.
You know, but most of the people
So that's
think
where
I'm
I was
gay,
confused by it because I've always mixed up gender and sexuality.
Right.
I just assumed that trans women were just extremely gay men.
Right.
But it doesn't really work on that. It's like a whole different scale.
Yeah, a lot of people really thought that. And to be honest, when I was younger, I thought that at maybe like a point when I was very, very young. But since there was so many trans women in my community growing up in Harlem, like I think probably around when I was like 8 or 9, I kind of just already intuitively understood like, no, they're women.
So why do you think that you can change genders but you can't change your race? Because I'm guessing you're not a fan of Rachel Dolezal. But I'm guessing, I don't need to really dig into your tweets and videos, but I doubt you accept her as a black woman, this Jewish woman who, you know, got a spray tan and curled her hair.
Just because it's race and gender are super different in the sense that one came before the other, like way before. Like gender has always been around.
The race is only like the idea of race is pretty new.
Right. Yeah.
It's
It's very new in comparison to gender. Like gender has always been fluid from society to society, and you could kind of see that with race somewhat. But since white supremacy has been so globalized, like blackness is pretty much like a concrete thing somewhat, except for people like you and I. Like the idea of like being of being transracial, it actually is a thing. Like, but it's not a thing for like actual white people like Rachel Dolezal. It's actually more of a thing for people like you and I that are ambiguous, where here you would probably be seen as one race, but if you went to China, you'd be seen as another. Whereas if you went to London, you'd probably be seen as another. Like
yeah, but that's based on other people's perceptions of you. It seems like the idea of transracial is more up to society's idea, not yours. It's not really, it doesn't seem like an identity. You can't just declare I'm black now and then everybody just says yes, but you can say I'm a woman and everyone will mostly agree.
There's gender and then there's gender expression. Where it's
That's a different thing?
Yeah, it's definitely two different things, because you could be a woman but be a tomboy. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're a tomboy, you're a woman, and usually a tomboy is like, from what I know, a lot of women that are tomboys are, no, they're not. Like a lot of times they be straight or bisexual. But I had this discussion with my father where he's like, oh, well, you know, they be guys out here trying to dress like women. And I asked him, I was like, okay, well, what does that look like to you? What does a man look like to you? Because he's Christian. I'm like, okay, so what does a man look like in the Bible? Did they wear the same shit that we wore today? No. So you can't really say, okay, God wants a man to look this certain way, because man has looked so many different ways and women has looked so many different ways. So gender is pretty much performative based on the society that you're in. It's really, it's very political. It's very psychological. It's very social.
I got to be honest. I was one of those people who thought that there's only two genders. I thought that people were just doing it to be attention seeking. Like I thought that the whole LGBTQ movement, the trans movement, this whole gender thing, is just people with a lack of personality, and they look for an identity. So they latch themselves to this thing. They start putting their gender pronouns in their bio, like he slash him. Like, all right, we get it. And then I saw you, and I started to understand that like people do genuinely feel this way. That this is something. It's the same. I think it's the same way. It's different than sexuality, but you feel it in the same way as like you just inherently know whether you're gay, straight, or bisexual.
And it's not a choice, even though a lot of people
it's not a choice.
Right. Same thing like with being gay. A lot of people felt the same way about being gay, where it's like, oh, like, why do gay people feel the need to announce that they're gay all the time? This is not. But then ironically, people are always in my comments asking if I'm gay. In this video, people are probably going to ask if I'm gay in the comments. I'm just warning you.
But do you think that the fact that you're saying that there's gender and gender expression, and we've established that sexuality is on a spectrum, do you think that people are going to use this and it's going to become kind of ridiculous? The fear right now is that, you know, it used to just be LGBT, now it's LGBTQ, QIA, and now it used to be like they, them, and now some people are going by like X, Z, Zer. Where do we draw the line, or how do we? Honest with you, I haven't met not one person. I haven't met not one person that goes by the Z, Zer thing. I've seen that online though. The XI.
Yeah, I've heard it, like the whole like otherkin thing. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not gonna hold
Otherkin, that kind of fell off. That was like
right. I'm just like, was that a meme? Like it feels. Was that like kind of like a dog whistle?
It was like half meme.
Like it feels like somebody, like one of these racists on 4chan was just like, let's just make this shit up to like,
make them look really bad. They do that.
They do that all the time. You get immortalized by the internet. In a sense, like who you were in that moment gets immortalized.
That's what I like about it. Like it paints, a lot of my stuff is flawed. I'm just like an angry kid playing Call of Duty, yelling at my screen.
And so people think that that's you, like forever. And then somebody's looking at 15-year-old me, and then they look at 23-year-old me, and they're like, the growth. Dude, what happened? Like so people ask me, dude, what happened? Because they see some lipstick. I'm like, I don't know, I wear lipstick. Like what the fuck? You grew. You grew. Like, oh my God, you changed. I'm like, well, shit, I would hope so. I'm 23. I'm not fucking 15.
I met up with a friend, one of my friends from college. He lives in the Lower East Side. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he's one of the people who watches you. And he said that he saw that Instagram live. I was like, what is that sus shit? Like, what is he doing? I used to fuck with his videos. Like, he used to be a fan of the New York stuff, and now he's just like he's off. So that's why I think that. That's why I asked the question if you think that it's hurting your career, because I think back in the day it seemed to attract, like, you spoke to people in New York City or maybe in hoods across America, and was talking about things like eloquently in a way that people didn't really expect from someone from the hood. And being really comfortable with your gender expression kind of takes away from that hood identity in a way. Do you think that I don't know how to phrase this, but do you think that your gender expression has revoked your hood pass?
That's hilarious. My hood pass? Nah, I definitely don't think so. Because I think most people in the hood are very accepting. I think that it's a minority of people that are extremely like bigoted in that way. Cause I mean, we from the hood, like everybody struggles so much. Everybody goes through all of these different things. So it's kind of like, who the hell are we to judge somebody else? You know what I'm saying? Like anybody else that's willing to judge somebody else because of how they identify, like Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't commit a crime by being
Yeah,
who
just
I
being a
am.
hater.
You get what I'm saying? Like, at that point, am I really losing something if someone is showing their true colors by being like, ew, this guy looks gay, I'm gonna unfollow? Like, I don't feel like I'm really losing anything. There's people that have been fans that kind of were like off put because they weren't used to it, and that's just a natural thing when you see a change. Like, a lot of times, like, a lot of people think like, you know, oh, everyone's just a hater and they just don't want to see me shine. But like, no, I understand that people grew up with me in a certain way. Like, a lot of these people were people that have, I've been on YouTube for
long time,
12 years.
12 years.
12 years. I've been on YouTube since I was 11. I'm 23. So a lot of people been with me through them 11 years, you know what I'm saying? And not all of those people are
That's
going to
crazy
be
to think about. That's
not all
crazy.
those people are going to be conscious in every way. Like,
Right.
everybody's not going to be woke in terms of race and gender and capitalism and this and that. Like, I can't expect everybody to agree with me, you know what I'm saying? Or to be on the same page as me as to what consciousness looks
But you
like
that they're fans
means.
because they fuck with your energy, with what you do.
Exactly.
And they're
It's like-
supporters of you as a person. People
Right.
say that about me all the
YouTube
time.
is about a personality, like, or at least it used to be. I feel
Yeah,
like
now it's changing
I
now.
like your channel a lot for the simple fact. Like, I was even talking to my girl about this the other day. I was like, SNEAKO was one of the last niggas that's really like a personality channel. Like, he could do whatever he wants
And
on his
people still
channel,
like it, yeah.
and people gonna like it.
My biggest enemy is comfort. It is laziness. Is like, because I can turn my brain off by just, you know, focusing on a video game for hours and hours, or just scrolling on my phone. I can numb my brain.
Yo, me too.
I can numb it. I could turn it off because my brain is constantly going nonstop, just won't shut the fuck up. So when I find something that lets me just breathe, you know, a couple drinks or maybe a blunt, a video game, and just something, or
You'll
like
stay there.
porn, I could just coast
Right.
and then ignore everything. And then
Yeah,
don't
I
have
still
the
got
urge.
30 tabs open right now that I haven't watched. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to leave this shit for later because I'm not about to be here for hour number 5, my nigga, because you could really be. Listen, your phone. Like, I've tried to be off my phone. Like, listen, I've had various partners of mine tell me that my phone is a problem. Like, I'm addicted to my phone.
I read most of my comments too. It's
Yes,
I
you
read
be in
them.
the comments for days arguing with people on Twitter. Like, even after you know you won the debate, you just want to sit there and just like, all right, what you about to say next?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's a dopamine hit. Like, those
Yes.
Twitter arguments will have you in a hole. You'll be mad as shit at who the fuck is this person?
Nobody.
Who is
for
this?
real.
They have a fucking anime profile picture. This is not even. There's probably a Russian bot, and I've spent 8 hours talking to them.
Oh man, or those white people that be making fake black accounts.
As a
Troll.
black man, this Trump is a guy.
I think Trump's a great guy. I swear, any black Trump supporter, they're a hologram. They're not.
But you saw Joe
I'm
Biden.
messing with you.
Joe Biden said if you don't, you saw that, right? He
Yeah.
said if you don't, if you have to wonder if you want to vote for me or Trump, you ain't black. How does that make you feel?
That shit was hilarious. Did you see that Trump posted it?
Yeah, he's
You
still
saw the
selling
meme?
T-shirts like hashtag you ain't black. That's smart, man. Like, bro, he's like 6'9". He's the 6'9" of politics. He just figured out
Bro.
trolling it.
I don't know what's going on in America, but I'm not going to live here for very long. I promise you.
Nah,
Whether
where you
Biden or
going?
Trump is in office, I don't know who I'm more scared of. I feel like Biden. At least Trump know what he's doing. Like, the ill that he's causing is like, you know, that it's intentional. You know what I'm saying? But like
Biden
Biden
just
is
seems like a guy with dementia. Like, it's just, he's just gonna,
he has to have dementia. He has to.
the way he talks and just forgets what he's saying.
And he was not talking like that. Just like
No.
when Obama's.
I remember him being
during
articulate.
Obama's.
I remember doing the debates with Paul Ryan during
Exactly. So it's like, how did he get there? Like, clearly,
age.
it's like it's his age.
He's not right in the head. He's just like an old angry grandpa. Do you have racist thoughts?
Racist thoughts.
Like, I would take. I've been following you for a while now. I would take like for a pretty good guess. You don't like white people.
I wouldn't say that's racist.
You probably. You don't think that's racist?
I don't think that's racist. I mean, white people as a whole, like, I'll say fuck white people as a whole, right? But if I meet an actual white person,
You won't have the
like
same energy.
I actually see them as a person. Like, I see them like, oh, like, this is a person. I'm gonna see how they are. But I still keep in mind, like, this person is white, so they might not understand a lot of certain things. Like, they might say some foul ass shit. They might say something dumb. They might say something racially insensitive, or they might be on the other side of the spectrum where they're like pandering to, like, you know what I'm saying? But like,
Yeah.
it's kind
Hey,
of like
my man.
it's like the Democrats and the Republicans. It's like, okay, so either this person about to be dumb racist, or they gonna try to like pander or be like too skittish around me. Like, damn, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like,
Yeah.
just be you, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I've met so many white people that always like.
I get along more with
In
white
New York
people who have
especially.
kind of accepted their racism a little bit. Like, people who are, they seem to, they're racist in the same way that I'm racist. You know, I'm very open about it.
Right.
Like, I will just say, I'll make jokes and crack jokes about every single race, because I am like pretty much every single race. But most white people, that bothers me so much. And what I hate more than actual racist white people is them holding it back and suppressing it and just like letting it build
but you
up.
say jokes. It's like you say
but
jokes.
every joke is based in truth.
Somewhat,
I mean, you can
kind of say
poke
that.
fun at. You can even poke fun at yourself when you say these things. You're poking fun at your thoughts. I get racist thoughts all the time. I don't act on them. I don't really inherently believe them.
But you see how you joke about it. I feel like that's you like kind of pointing out the absurdity in the thought. Like it's like that's you know that it's racist.
Yeah.
But I feel like some people are dead ass racist and they don't know. Like they think that's just normal. Like, oh, this person's
But
black.
I think
so
it's based in the same feeling. It's based in the same feeling of being afraid of something different, or just being, or not understanding something different. So you say something racist, but unless you have self-awareness, you won't be able to make it a joke or to poke fun at yourself and to poke fun at that flaw.
Right. I think we're also socialized by that as well. Like, it's not just about being afraid just because people are different. Like, that's kind of like the inherent thing. Like, I mean, of course, I'm pretty sure like when indigenous people saw that white guy coming on a boat and they just shot arrows at him, they were just like, who the fuck is this white guy? Like, we ain't about to go through this shit again. Like, not again. So but
that's a perfect example of why there's so of casual racism that you see in New York City. It's based on experiences. So I've seen like people will call it racist if a white guy is afraid of someone, or like when they drive past a black person, they lock their car doors. But that guy probably got robbed by a black guy before. This is something that he's seen. It's the same thing you see like with Muslim cashiers. Like when they see black people walk in, they'll grab the bat, or or like waiters. Most waiters know that like black people don't tip. But if you say that, that's great. But this is based on past experiences, and you do that with every race, no matter.
There's definitely like there's certain traumas and there's certain defense mechanisms you have. Like for example, I got robbed by a guy that was dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I feel like every day that I'm walking in the hood, especially like around the area that I got robbed, I'm always just waiting to see this nigga one more, to see like how I'd react. Like, would I fuck dude up or what would happen? So sometimes like I'll see someone, I'm like, is that him? Is that him? So it's like that in itself is motivated by race, but that's like kind of like a past trauma because it happened to me. But I feel like there's people that dead ass never had anything happen to them, but it's socialized.
But there's past trauma within the races. Like white people as a whole don't want their daughters to fuck black men. Right. That's the trauma that white people all have based on segregation and thinking that black men are savages and all this internalized stuff. So that past trauma, even though you might not have experienced something personally, it can exist within a whole race.
I wouldn't call that trauma. I think that's a reach.
Trauma is not it's not the right word.
I would say it's kind of like a generational passing down of just preconceived ideas of like what black men are. I mean, because before black people did anything to white people, they always just didn't want their daughters to fuck black men. And like when it did happen, they would just call them rapists. Like they didn't actually believe that a consensual relationship could happen between a black person and a white person. They would just say that the black person was the rapist. So, and that gets passed down generation to generation to generation.
But that idea is still here. And I think it's based in the fact that white men were kind of civilized and normal, but black men were, because they were slaves and they were lower class, they were more animalistic, which is attractive to women. And so white men have always felt like they can't,
I don't think like that was attractive. I don't think that was attractive to women. I think what was attractive to white women was the fact that they saw someone and it's a power dynamic. They saw someone that they could take advantage of, because no one ever talks about that. People always talk about like how white men raped slaves. No one talks about how the wives was also raping the slaves too. Really? Yeah, and getting pregnant by these niggas all the time.
So you think that's the white women fetish with black men?
Yes.
I think it's the forbidden. I think it's because it's
both.
Wrong.
It's both. But it's definitely the power dynamic at play. Like which is why like I even look at interracial relationships sometimes. It's kind of like, damn, like like when a white woman, like I would date a white woman. Has it happened? No, not really. No, it happened for maybe 2 months. I'm trying to think, because I'm like, I talked to a white girl before. It's like that murky Gen Z millennial. What the fuck does talking mean?
But if fuck white people is ingrained in you, you probably can't have a long-term relationship with a white woman.
That's not true. It depends on how they are. Like I feel like individually, a white person could be very conscious, could be very class conscious, could be very race conscious.
So you hate what they are, but you don't hate them.
Yes, it's like,
so how could you be married to that person?
I see whiteness as I wouldn't marry that person. I mean, I don't believe in marriage. But
Neither do I.
I'm very polyamorous, so I feel like if I was monogamous, the one person that I would be married to definitely wouldn't be a white person. But maybe it's because I'm polyamorous that it's like, well, that's not the only person I'm gonna be fucking with.
Polyamorous is not sticking to one partner. Is open relationships, right?
Different people do it different ways. Some people are in triads or quads. Some people are in closed polyamorous relationships. Poly just means more than one. I personally believe that polyamory should be completely open.
I've been thinking this for a while. I don't think that people are naturally monogamous. I think it's something that we force ourselves to do because we get lonely, because we want to, we romanticize the idea of a person. We're really jealous. The human species is a really jealous
Very
creature.
territorial. It's in our nature.
So we force ourselves to stick to this rule that's unnatural. Like if you look at monkeys and bonobos, they fuck everything. No one's getting married in the jungle. They just fucking. It's something that we force ourselves to do, but I don't know how to tell my girlfriends this so I can be polyamorous. I don't know how to bring this shit up in a way, because I don't think that like, oh man, I really hope
well,
you
it's a
guys watch this
spectrum.
shit.
It's a spectrum for sure, because there's monogamy and then there's non-monogamy and then there's polyamory. Like non-monogamy, I feel like there's some people like a minority of people are monogamous, a minority of people are polyamorous, but the majority of people are non-monogamous. Like as in people that swing or people that are in open marriages. Like, yeah, I think that humans naturally, most people will stick to one person. Like they want to spend the rest of their life with one person, or a majority of their lives when they get married. But
everyone has thoughts of cheating.
Right,
Everybody
you know what I'm saying?
thinks
They're
about
attracted
cheating.
to other people. They still have sexual desires for other people. And I think that most people feel that. I think there's a very small minority of monogamous people that don't feel that. I have met some. It's a very small
don't believe
minority.
that.
I've met some that are monogamous
temporary.
and they don't see nobody. But
You
like
can't
you said,
you can't make that commitment for life. Like the idea of signing a contract of
like
marriage,
they're
saying,
like, oh,
like, I don't know.
Right. They're like, I've never been attracted to nobody else. It's like, all right,
Bullshit,
but that's for now.
man.
I mean, that's for now. And you got to think about it almost like institutionally too. Like, kind of like when you're in a monogamous relationship, there's all these like rules and like expectations that kind of stop you from being attracted to other people. Like, oh, I'm not going to go to a bar. I'm not going to go to a club. I'm not going to talk to this person for too long. I'm not going to text this person for too long. Like a friend is somebody that I see every once in a while.
Well, that's why marriage is a suppressant of your identity. You kind of have to take away some of what makes you a man or what makes you a woman or
whatever you are.
Yeah, whatever you are. You have to take away some of that so that you become more appealing to your partner. So much of what makes a man is like going on the hunt, is like trying to fuck bitches, like fishing. We treat fucking women like a sport. We enjoy the process of it, like making yourself feel good and be attractive to other people. It's sometimes you want to go out to a bar, you don't want to get laid.
I think women feel that way too. I think everybody
everyone
feels
yeah.
A lot of people do.
You need to feel attractive to other people. That's something that but you suppress that with marriage, and that's why people get fat, they get comfortable, they get lazy, they stop taking care of themselves.
I think marriage as an institution is really the problem, because I honestly do respect marriage in a sense for people that really do practice unconditional love. I think that marriage shouldn't be as rigid as it is. Like, if you tell me that you love me for life, that means you're going to love me for all of my changes. That means that I could be a different person next year and you still going to love me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you love me for my spirit, for like who I am at the core fundamentally, but then all the changes around that, you're still going to love.
So how do your girlfriends treat the lipstick, and what do they think of your gender identity?
They fuck with it.
Yeah?
They fuck with it. Yeah, like,
You've never bounced into problems with that?
I had a girlfriend that definitely called me the F word when she found out that I dated a trans woman before. But yeah, and ironically enough, she wound up like being queer. So I feel like it was all just like projection.
Yeah, it's self-hate. It's self-hate.
But I don't want people to get it twisted. There are straight people that are
against
homophobic. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, homophobes are secretly just gay, which that's kind of a homophobic thought in itself. But
I think about that all the time. Like, would I date a trans person? Like, and do you think it's transphobic if I wouldn't? Like, if I don't like that? Or is it a preference? Because part of me thinks that
everything is a preference.
Everything's but part of me thinks that like deep down there's something in me that is like thinks like, oh, this is weird. It's too and that I'm holding back because I think it's too weird.
Yes. Yeah, but every preference is rooted in something. Like, even people be like, oh, like, but I like pizza. What's so bad about that? All right, but what if you never were introduced to pizza? You wouldn't even know that.
Yeah.
So it's all about what you're taught. It's all about what's made available to you. Your experiences, that's how you know what your preferences are. So I feel like...
Well, is it a preference if I prefer a real vagina? Or is real, does real even
I mean, you would
apply?
have to experience a fake one in order to really know.
Is there a difference? Can you tell a difference?
I mean, I've never
I thought you dated one.
No, I mean I dated someone that was trans, but they did not have most of the trans people I've met don't get sex changes. Yeah, like that's why I say that gender is very performative. It's very psychological. Like not everyone wants to get a sex change. Some people do, but it's honestly kind of dangerous right now and expensive. So a lot of people don't opt for actually doing that.
My mom was
that shit's really scary to even think about.
My mom was telling me like she's a psychologist and she was working with these university professors who were like grilling children because these children wanted to go through sex changes, and so they were going through like these extensive questionnaires and trying to the interviews to see if they were really about it.
Right.
And they were like traumatizing the kids. And my mom was basically saying that they should just be more open, that surgery should just be open for everyone like that. And I was listening to that and I was just blown away that kids could even get hormones like that. That seems weird that if you're going through puberty, you start giving hormones to a kid, or you would let a 12-year-old decide if they want to cut off their dick. Like my mom kept getting mad at me because I said like, you're really going to let a kid cut off their dick. She's like, don't use that terminology. But that is essentially what you're doing.
Well, it is, but I don't think I know there's hormone therapy, but in order to go through like surgery, like you have to go through a lot. Like, I don't know not one kid that has had a surgery.
But it happens. Does
it?
Yeah, you're allowed to. If you're a kid, you're allowed to go through transgender surgery. And I'm like, if you can't vote, why should you be able to decide what gender you're going to be for your whole life?
Well,
like,
that's a bad comparison because voting is like everybody's destiny. Like that's more like you. And children are way smarter than we think. Like they have way more of a clear.
Why can't we let them vote? Like we don't let them drink. We don't let them. There's restrictions we give to people. Like, okay, you're 18. You're not old enough to make these. You can't go to war till you're 18 because you're not mature enough to make that decision. So why do we let kids? Why do we say that you're mature enough to make the decision that you're going to change your gender forever? How do you even know?
Is that legal in America? Where do they do that?
Yes, it's hospitals all over the country.
I don't know about that one. I have to look into that. But I definitely know like that. There's some trans people that I know that they knew very young and they started taking hormones.
But you don't think people could be wrong? Like maybe the kid's just gay, or maybe the kid is just confused. You know, some kids paint their nails. They're not. Doesn't mean they have to cut their dicks off.
No, I think kids know. Kids know if they're a woman. Like I know so many trans people that they knew when they was 4 or 5, and they wish that their parents like acknowledged it younger. Like their parents eventually did, but they were like, I didn't need to be an adult to know that. I feel like there's certain things that you need to know, that you need to be an adult to know. But then there's other things where it's like gender is, since you come out the womb, like you're already attacked with gender normativity. Like you're already attacked with, let me get this pink thing for my daughter. Let me get this blue thing for my boy.
Those
like
birth parties, what do you call it?
Right, gender reveals, like even that. And it's just like, you know, you're already just bombarded with that. You're not really bombarded with politics and voting and shit like that when you're a kid, but you're bombarded about boyhood and girlhood at a young age. And so that's why I think it's a weird comparison.
I was at 12, and if I was on hormones already, like, you know, jerking off in the school bathroom and just like going through this crazy change hormonally, and then to add a bunch
more, woo,
I could see that fucking up a kid for life. And trans people are already extremely depressed. The suicide rate for trans people is so high.
But that's because they aren't acknowledged. Like their identity isn't acknowledged.
Like, don't you see a kid being able to make that mistake? Like maybe they fucked up, maybe they're just gay, or maybe they just...
Detransitions do happen. So I'm not going to pretend like they don't.
I've heard about that.
I can't, like, yeah, there are people that do detransition, even like starting in adulthood. Like, I mean, shit happens. People change. Like, these things happen. I personally, you know, scientists have seen that it makes trans people happier to go through hormonal surgery to transition. Whatever they got to do is going to make them happier. Like, as far as bottom surgery, that surgery is like very invasive. It's very dangerous. So anybody that was thinking about that, like, I think you need to think about that like long and hard. But you know, I think that all comes from just the pressure to have a certain genitalia. Like your penis, and mind you, my bias is I'm non-binary, so I know I'm not a binary trans person. So I'm kind of speaking on something that I can't really that I don't really experience. But your penis is not what makes you a man, and your vagina is not what makes you a woman.
But it's definitely part of it.
I think, yes, in terms of socially,
definitely
yes.
Part of it. Like, part of being a woman is going through menopause when you're older, is having a monthly period, having to experience childbirth. Like, don't you think that these?
But there's a lot of cis women that don't go through that, and it's not a minority need. Like a lot of people think like, oh, that's just like that's a defect. But there's a lot of women that will have very irregular periods, or they will have PCOS, or they can't give birth for whatever reason. So
you think there's no point in having traditional ideas of gender?
I think that you're right in a sense, because even in biblical times, you know, people were seen as less of a woman if they couldn't give birth. Yeah. Like people would literally divorce you. Like niggas would leave your ass if you can't have their kid. Like it's like, well, I'm trying to create a legacy, so I'm gonna just go to somebody else and have this legacy. I feel like in our modern time, there's just so many other things that define womanhood and that define manhood that I just feel like it's kind of arbitrary to just look at somebody's dick and say that. Because when you look at a woman, you're not even thinking about her pussy. That's probably the last thing you're thinking about. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like when you look at a woman, if you're attracted to a woman, you're attracted to what you see initially. Like you don't see whether or not she has a pussy or not. I could almost guarantee you there's been some shorties on the train that you looked at that probably had a dick, but you ain't know. Yeah. And you will never know. You know what I'm saying? So attraction. But
sometimes they got an Adam's apple. It did, like, you could tell in my opinion.
But there's a lot of cis women that have Adam's apples.
No.
Yes. I've seen plenty of women that have Adam's apples. Yeah, there's a lot of dudes that don't really have much of an Adam's apple, like protruding. Like it's really a vocal thing mostly, but I guess there's definitely a correlation, you know, with the hormones and shit like that. But
do you use different pronouns? What pronouns do you go by?
I go by everything. He, she, they. People call me like whatever.
Do you think it's like I used to find
people call me she when I look more feminine. When I look more masculine, people call me he. It's all social. Like it's what you look like. With my struggle, I feel like I be trying to look neutral, but then it's like, what is neutral? You know what I'm saying? What is neutral? Depends what
I would just say non-binary. That's I don't know. But I used to think that shit was annoying. I got to be honest. Like in college, these people would walk around with their backpacks and they have their pronouns pinned to it. And then they would like raise their hand.
That does sound annoying. I'm not going to.
And then you'd introduce yourselves. Like you'd have to do the icebreakers in the beginning. Like I'm SNEAKO.
Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Huh? Did it make you feel uncomfortable?
To do icebreakers?
Like all of just that whole shit.
Yeah, not uncomfortable. No.
I mean, it should. That's kind of the point.
It didn't make.
It's kind of to disrupt the entire like cis normativity of everything. It's just like you see how y'all niggas uncomfortable. That's how we feel every day.
Oh, okay. I just got annoyed by it because like
I could tell why it's annoying because
so we do the icebreaker and then you have to say your pronouns when you introduce yourselves. Like and I go by he he/him. Like okay, I mean, is this necessary? Like the whole point of pronouns is just a quicker way to say someone's name. It just seems like you're fucking up the English language. He, she, they, them. Like he, her. It's just quick.
I mean, we fuck up the English language all the time. I'm pretty sure we've said a lot of. Yeah. I mean, even me saying nigga, like I'm using a completely different context than it was meant to.
Yeah, language evolves, but do you don't think you never get annoyed by this thing? Like you don't see these people sometimes. You're like, all right, maybe you're over identifying. Maybe you're trying to be a special snowflake. Maybe like just relax with all the they,
but
them.
I could definitely tell you that there's situations where binary trans people feel annoyed by it because
annoyed by what? By other people?
By people asking their pronouns.
Oh, okay.
Because it kind of like takes away the whole point of them dressing as they do to look like a woman. Like they're trying to be incognito. So if somebody walks up to you, be like, "What's your pronouns?" It's like, "Damn, am I clockable?" Like clockable is like
I understand. Yeah.
It's like damn, like so they know. Like you know what I'm saying? Like you want somebody. You don't want somebody to come ask you your pronouns. You want somebody to just straight up call you she. Like you want someone to assume. I think a good video on this is ContraPoints. You ever heard of her?
Oh yeah.
She made a video on that on how it's like it's kind of a struggle because you want somebody to well, I don't know if it was ContraPoints, might have been somebody else. I might be confusing, but yeah, like I've heard multiple people say like you want somebody to just straight up call you she. You don't want somebody to come.
But how do we know? Like what if we fuck it up? And
it's
then
all
you're
assumption.
Like, don't misgender me. You fucked up.
It's all assumption. I mean, most people, to be honest, like people that are non-binary, when you fuck up their pronouns, like I've just seen them like wince a little bit maybe, but most people would just be like. Yeah, like me, I'll just cringe like inside and just be like.
I mean, but can you blame us? Like, if you look like I was hanging out with this transgender woman. She was becoming a man. She was in the transition, and we were hanging out with my other friend. My other friend kept fucking up the pronouns every time I saw him like. But at the same time, bro, you look like a girl. What do you expect people to? This is how people always speak.
Right.
This is why pronouns exist. Like, if you look like a girl, you say she. Her. It's that simple.
But I mean, I think once somebody tells you the pronouns, then it's like you gotta respect it at that point. You can't. It don't even matter how they look. Like you gotta respect it.
Yeah.
But I understand the initial assumption. The initial assumption is like we're all socially ingrained in it. Like I don't believe in making and demonizing somebody and making it seem like they're a terrible person because they misgender somebody like off rip. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you see somebody that's how you grew up. Like, but that's the whole point. Like we're uncomfortable with this, but our kids and our grandchildren, like it don't matter if we can't adjust. They will, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
The world is changing, and
I definitely see this as inevitable. Like, I was getting annoyed by it, but I'm like, this is the future.
It is whether
real.
you change or not, whether you adjust or not. Like, that's what's gonna happen. And the same way that our grandparents are looking at us and be like, "What the fuck?" Like, these kids are weirdos.
It's
like,
the same treatment that gay people got. It's the same trajectory,
right? Like, people thought gayness was a mental illness. You know, like people thought being transgender was a mental illness, and now we're like, well, wait a minute, they're not depressed because they're transgender. They're depressed because
they're not accepted.
We treat them like shit. Yeah. Like,
it's the environment. Do you get annoyed by people who you think use this to just create a personality? I see a lot of people in Williamsburg, and like they will. I genuinely don't believe them. I genuinely think that they're just using this for attention.
I mean, it's not for you to really decide, really.
Yeah,
it's not. It's
their gender expression.
Yeah, and if you think about it, what's the problem with that being a part of their personality? Like everything we are is a part of our personality.
Yeah, but I don't want people to create their whole identity based on external things like race and gender and sexual orientation.
I was actually gonna bring that up too, because I was like, we do that all the time with being black, with being black, with being
these are surface level things about a person. You're way more than that. And I see people just create their whole identity based on these things. It's like, who are you though? Like they're always at protests and rallies and this. It's like, but bro, what do you do?
It's funny because what you just said is actually very spiritual. Because it's like, who are you is a very there's layers to that question. Like, you know, who are you as a person spiritually? But then who are you like based off of your experiences? And your experiences are based on your identity. Like if you didn't look how you looked, would you be treated the way you treated? You know what I'm saying? Like if you was darker, if you were more phenotypically black or more phenotypically Chinese or more phenotypically this or that. Like
I never really experienced like any racial profiling at all.
And your personality might be a little bit different if you did.
It would be. You know, because
you might move a certain way. So with people feeling this way about their gender and how they're treated, yeah, definitely like being a woman, being a man, being white, like all of those things do definitely have an impact. Like we are all products of our environment to an extent. No matter how much we don't want to be, we are all to an extent. And when you find yourself or whatever, you're trying to find yourself beyond these things. When you go through that existential crisis of like, damn, who the fuck am I besides like what the fuck I look like and
because
what people treat
these
me
people like. To me, they care so much about other people's perceptions of them. Their attraction to just identify with gender and race, or just that's how other people perceive you. They don't seem to have found anything within themselves. You're always thinking about how other people look at you.
But how you know that?
That's my assumption.
Right.
But if I read your Instagram bio and it just says like I'm Afro Latin X, agender, queer, lesbian, and then I'm from New York. I don't know anything about you.
Sometimes that's a buffer. Like I've had people like people ask me all the time. So at some point I put agender in my bio and I removed it afterward because I'm just like, people probably don't even know what the fuck this means. So who cares? But I had it in my bio because people kept asking me. Right. And so I'm just like, well, sometimes
that's the only. You have other things in your bio too. Like you understand that you're a filmmaker, you're a producer. Like we know who you are. Most people, you see their bio and that's it. It's just showing how woke they are. It has the LGBTQ flag, he, him. It doesn't have anything else but just like in the bio might say like some shit like men are trash, and that's it. Their whole identity is just involved.
Yeah, I think that's definitely less of a trans issue.
This is so many people on Twitter. How many times do you click on a profile and that's it? That's all they have. They got nothing else to them.
I think it's definitely not a trans issue. It's more of a, because you mentioned other things too, like being woke and shit like that. I definitely do think people create an identity around wokeness too, or
about being oppressed.
Yeah, that too. People definitely do create an identity around that, and I definitely be seeing people getting lost in the sauce to where it's kind of like when you know too much. Like I've seen people like, especially when when they just woke up, like straight, like they just came out the womb, like they just woke up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and cause I experienced that too when I was 18 years old, like everything was about being pro-black and everything was very Afrocentric and shit like that, and being indigenous and all these different things. when I was 18 and kind of started studying more, like I always knew about classism and consumerism and capitalism, shit like that. But I feel like when I was 18, that's when I really started looking into kind of like the history of racism in the country, shit like that, and around the Black Lives Matter, Trayvon Martin situations, Mike Brown. And so, you know, I kind of did become like a pro-black YouTuber. You know what I'm saying? Like people saw me as that, like, oh, that's a pro-black YouTuber. And I definitely see what you mean. Like a lot of people do create an identity around either being black or being gay or being this. I think it is a part of your identity, and I think that that's just part of people's kind of journey. Like sometimes they might be just embracing that part of themselves at the time being. Like we are all just so multifaceted where shit, there might be a time where you'll embrace this heritage and that heritage. Maybe you might start getting into spiritualism, and you all you talk about is Buddhism all the fucking time.
I've been through these
phases.
phases.
And you can't stop talking about this one thing. And
I guess it's just people going through identity
and I'm
crisis.
sure people get
They're just
annoyed.
figuring themselves out.
Yeah, I'm sure people get annoyed. Like my dad, like one time he was right now, like he has like these little phases. Like before he liked grills, and now he's like all he could talk about is drones. Like, oh, drones this and drones. I'm just like, my nigga, do you like anything else?
Yeah.
Like, and so I could see how that's annoying around identity too, where like people just talk about like, oh, actually, I read about this and how that's sexist. Oh, actually, I read about this and how that's, you know, so, but people go through those phases, and that's just part of their journey. And it's kind of just like, you know, you just got to be patient with people, because that might be you. It probably was you. It has been you, and it might be you again. Like, you know,
the mixed identity crisis is crazy. Like, it was especially as a kid, because I like was born straight up like fresh off the boat Chinese immigrant. Like I was Chinese for the first 8 years of my life, and then I started looking more light skinned, and then I had all this hate from like I thought that girls didn't like me because I was Asian, so I had and you know, people would like, these kids biking would call me ching chong, so I had all this like Asian Asian men in the Western world
have issues with masculinity, for sure.
Like you don't every time we're in the movies, it's just like, oh, just kicking, and we're seen as caricatures. But then I started getting more racially ambiguous and look more light skinned, and I got treated. So I started like getting really into black stuff. I had like, you know, that the guy in the Olympics with his fist up. I had that poster. Everyone had that posters. I wanted to convert to Islam, because I was like so into Malcolm X. I was reading about him and Elijah Muhammad and all that shit, and I was like low key like becoming racist. I'm like, fuck white people. I was all into this like pro black stuff, but I still looked Asian. Yo, the identity crisis that mixed kids have is not talked about enough, or not talked about. Because it's a different kind of struggle. It's you have more of you have to go through an identity crisis. Right.
And it's funny because when you talk about it, people always think like, oh, y'all think y'all more oppressed than black people. It's like, no, there's a way to talk about it. There's a way to talk about it without being woe is me or being cringe.
I don't think it's woe is me.
Right.
I think,
it's more just, that's an
mixed
experience.
In a way.
It's an experience. It's part of the black experience. It's part of the Asian experience. Like what you experience is part of your blackness and your Asianness simultaneously. Like that's part of it. Like you're not the only black and Asian person in the world. There's other people that have felt what you felt.
There's not many. Well, my dad's half white, half black, and my mom is Filipino, but she looks like Korean. So already like I'm part Asian and part black, but I'm light skinned in each one. Right. And my dad's like just found out that his dad was Jewish, and he didn't even know that his whole life. Right. So now like we have all these family members dead in Auschwitz. It's like almost every couple of years where there's something else that I have to. I have to try. It's like, goddamn, my grandfather couldn't just stay in one fucking place. Bro, just chill. Just like fucking your neighborhood like everyone else, man. Like taking boats.
You already know. It's the Biggity Beast from the East on Monte. East Side Harlem repping. And we gonna holla at you. Get it.